Okay, so and you don't go easy on me, by the way, too. I really, for everyone who's watching, this is an example of my sales process. I want to do an exact role play with Mario here, so you can see exactly what I say, and you can see my structure. And I can tell you right now, my sales process starts as this: someone sees something from me, they then either book time on my book me calendar, or book like a boss calendar. And then either it'll go directly in my calendar, or they'll respond back, and then call me or email me or whatever. And then that's how the initial conversation happens. My sales process is two steps. The very first one is weeding out bad apples on the front end, and also just to see if we're a good fit for each other. The second step in the process then goes to a demo. But at the moment, right now, I have 100% close rate on those who get to the first call and then also make it to the second call, because the way that the first call is set up is actually meant to not really sell, but actually get them to commit to it by the end of the call. So for everyone who's watching, this is a role play that I'm doing in this process with Mario. And Mario, I want you to pretend like you are let's say you're a veterinarian, just and give me actual objections too. Like, don't go easy on me in this scenario. I don't want any sort of layups. I'm really looking for an actual conversation. And if you can give me some objections that you think you're going to hear too, so that at that point we make it very, very real. Okay. I'm not going to say that I can overcome every objection, but there's probably a good chance that I will. Okay. So, anyways, hey Mario, it's a pleasure to talk to you today. My name is Casey Carroll. I know that you got my information via, whatever sort of insert, advertising here kind of scenario. Hey, I appreciate you actually reaching out to me. Now, tell me real quick right off the bat, just out of curiosity, what about what you saw from me kind of made you interested and wanted to talk to me today?
So yeah, sure, I'll go right into it. I saw that you do a lot of Facebook advertising, and that's not something my clinic has really done or even dove into at all. We're doing pretty well, but I am looking to maybe grow in some sense of the word, but it's never tickled my fancy because we've already been doing so well. So I just wanted to see where your head's at and what you do and how you can help me as a business.
I don't totally understand too. And by the way, side note, I usually build some rapport rather than just going straight into the call like that.
Yeah.
So it's not usually, I usually will like shoot the shit with them for a little bit. But
Okay.
okay, going back to this. Got it. Okay, so you saw my stuff, you liked it, you're kind of looking to grow. I mean, heck, every business should be growing, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not growing, you're kind of staying still in your competitions, in your business and everything. But okay, so did you see some of the testimonials that I sent? But did that kind of interest you, or like what? I guess what set me apart differently from what you hear from a lot of other people on the front end?
So I did see some of your testimonials.
Okay.
So in terms of what you do, I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if those clinics so my clinic has a great rep.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not even sure if it's necessary to go all through all this.
Mm-hmm.
But I did go through some of your testimonials, great things. You probably did very well for those businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if what you did for them is going to work for me.
Of course not. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And so, at the end of the day, by the way, this first call is mainly just to kind of get a good feel for each other, because I realize I'm not for everyone, there are a lot of clients I say no to. I mean, sometimes on these calls, like 70% of the time, I actually tell people that we're probably not going to be a good fit for each other. And so for me, I just want to get to know a little bit more about your practice, what you do right now. Obviously, you're looking to grow, so there is opportunity maybe at the very end of this, if it makes sense, to maybe see what happens after this point. But I'm not really trying to push it towards that right now. What I'm really trying to look to do at this moment in time is to learn more about you, learn more about what you want to do with your practice in the next year or so, and we'll see what happens. I mean, if it makes sense, then we'll move on to a demo. I can show you some real live ad accounts if you want to see that sort of stuff. But I'm really not trying to get that far just now.
Well. Okay, but let me stop you there. Before we go any further, do you mind just letting me know what your fees might be, just so I have a rough understanding of what it could be?
Yeah, $1 million. I'm joking.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to cost $1 million. But there's a big reason why I don't talk about that, because I'm not sure if I want to do business with you right now. Just being honest with you. I usually don't like to talk about fees, because I also find that if I don't do a good job throughout this whole process of showing you that I can actually help you earn money off the money you spend with me, I'm not a cost, right? And so if you look at me as a cost right off the bat, at the end of the day, rather than me showing you how you can look at me as an investment in your business, at the end of the day in advertising, it's the only portion of your business that if you put $1 in, you're expecting something back. is an investment, you know? And so I don't know what your margins are. I don't know what your average lifetime value is. I don't know what all those scenarios are. So until I can actually get more information about you first, if I just spout a number to you, I'm going to come off as a cost. The conversation is going to end, and then you might just end up going somewhere else and having a terrible experience with a different advertiser. So is it cool if maybe we can pause on that for maybe 5 to 10 minutes? Is that cool with you?
Sure. Why
Cool.
not?
I appreciate it, man. And then trust me, it'll be worth it for you in the end. I can tell you, you're going to understand why that's important, okay?
All right,
So,
give you a chance.
so first off, tell me a little bit more about your practice right now. What kind of, is there any specialties with the veterinarian type stuff that you do, or tell me more about that?
Well, so we're mainly a general hospital. We handle dogs and cats only. We had a few rats here and there, but
Rats. What about keep them away from the snakes, right?
yeah. Oh, we actually had a snake too. Some people came in thinking that, hey, can you please? I found this rat on the street. Do you mind helping it out? It's about to die. I'm like, yeah,
Really?
yeah. Let me take it to the back. So we're a general hospital. We do surgeries, anesthesia, vaccines, all the general practice. We do dental cleaning as well.
Okay, all right.
So that's a big service we provide, and we do provide it at a very affordable rate.
Okay.
We have a great reputation on Yelp. We have over 125 reviews, 5 stars. Let's see. We do have 8 or 9 other hospitals within a 1-mile radius of us.
Oh, competition. Yeah.
Yes. Yet we are, if you search just a veterinarian in Orange, California, we come up number 3.
Oh, wow. That's good. Okay.
Yeah. So and if you search vet in Orange County, which is fucking huge, we do come up on like page 3 or something. So not too bad, but it's not like people are going to search in all of Orange County. We don't do much Facebook. We don't do much Yelp. We do advertise with Yelp. I have my son handle all that. And I hate messages, so I just had him turn off all the messaging and all that. And even though he's told me to turn it all on and you should be receptive online, I just don't like it.
Your son's a smart man, but we'll go past that.
Yeah. So I like phone calls. So I always have him tell people who contact him online to call the business for more information.
Okay.
And so I do run things a little old school, but it's been working for me thus far. I'm not the biggest clinic on the block. We're making about, I'd say, anywhere from 30 to 40K a month.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting tired. I want to retire soon, but
when you retire, you're also going to be selling your practice too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, how much revenues you bring in or how many clients you have at that point also dictates how much that that veterinarian practice is worth.
That is true.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that later. But I mean, you've given me a lot of information. So let me go through this real quick. You deal with dogs and cats, the occasional rat.
Yeah.
A lot of those. You deal with surgeries. You do general anesthesiology, dental cleaning, which sounds like it's a pretty big deal. I just actually had to bring my dog for the same exact thing. And so, you're affordable. You're great rep on Yelp. There's 8 to 9 hospitals within your general vicinity. So obviously there's a lot of competition. Currently you don't do Facebook, but you do advertise with Yelp. At the moment, your son's kind of helping you with that Yelp sort of stuff. But, from what you told me earlier, obviously you're looking to grow. And so I got a pretty good pulse, I guess, of your clinic. So tell me a little bit more about, if you had to look at what you do right now to get new cat and dog patients, on a regular basis, and the occasional rat that comes off the street, of course. What are you doing to actually get that business on a regular basis right now, like advertising, marketing wise?
Well, to be honest, I'd say 70% of my business comes from Yelp. I don't do anything. I just have a check-in offer. It's been working very well. We spend about $700 with Yelp.
Okay.
And it's a process I do not want to break, and I'm very comfortable with the rate I'm paying.
Yeah.
And they have tried to bog me down to pay more because of some crazy. They actually just showed me a spreadsheet saying that my conversion rate is 111%, and I laughed or my son laughed in their face.
There's more than one animal per. Like, how the hell is it possible to have 100?
Yeah. It's something I could show you later on. But long story short, it is going very well, and I'm happy with the results. And I really don't have to do much more. I am a very affordable clinic. I don't have the highest prices, and some of the times my regular prices are twice, if not 3 times as lower than some other clinics around the area.
Oh, wow.
So Yeah,
Okay.
so we do have that for me, but it is something that my son has also talked to me about in raising my prices because you
Which you
are
should,
just,
by the
yes,
way.
because you have such a great reputation,
Yeah.
or he's saying I have such a great reputation, great this, great that. I don't think no one's going to mind that you raise your prices 10 to 15%. That's
Mhm.
10 to 15% more per month. So I mean, I'm talking like I'm consulting myself. It's funny,
Good.
but yeah. So that's where we're at with advertising.
Okay. Okay. So you do some paid advertising, of course. But it sounds to me like, since you're doing all that stuff with Yelp right now, Yelp has gotten you to a certain point within your business. From what you told me in the very beginning of the conversation is that obviously you're looking to grow. So I know from what you told me earlier that you're right now somewhere between, thirty to $40,000 a month in revenue with what you're currently doing at this moment in time right now. Where would you like to be by the end of this year?
If we can get to 50,000 by the end of the year
Okay.
per
So you're
month.
looking to get to 50K. Um, Let me ask you this. So if you're at 30 to 40 right now with what you're doing advertising marketing wise, and your goal is to get to 50, which by the way, that's more than doable, based off what you told me so far. In fact, I'd probably actually maybe set it higher if you want to, it's up to you.
Wow.
But if you and I choose to not do business with each other today, how are you planning on hitting that goal?
Honestly, I talk to my son. I don't. I'm very hard headed sometimes, and I'm very stuck in my ways, and I know what I'm doing is working, so I just don't want to mess that up.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
And I don't want you
So
to stop that either, by the way. You should still keep doing that. And it sounds like at some point I should probably get your son on the phone. In fact, maybe we can we might not be able to really get this whole conversation completely done today because it sounds like your son's also a decision maker in the process, or he has some say in it, or is it all you? What's the situation?
I'd say if it comes to anything technical, I would talk to him.
Okay.
But obviously, I make the final decisions in terms of hiring you or not.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So, would we need to have your son on this call for you to even want to consider moving forward to a demo?
I think so.
We should. Okay. Well, let's do this then. So I'm going to go through the rest of this conversation here. But what I really would like to do is also hop on another call with your son before we sit to the demo phase. Because again, it's important to me that I have buy-in from every stakeholder in the organization or for every person who is part of that business, because your needs, Mr. Client, is very different from what your son's needs are going to be. And I don't want to go through this process without having everyone on board at the same time and making sure that we're all communicating at the same time. So I usually would stop right here, but I'm going to continue to keep moving forward in this process for the sake of whatever.
Sure.
Okay, so you're trying to get the 50K, but it sounds like from what you told me, you don't really have like a full-blown plan, you personally, on how you're going to do that, right?
Yep. Nope.
Okay.
Not at all.
Obviously, this conversation is a little important then.
Definitely. I all I have is Yelp, and that's all I know. So
Right.
that's what works. And that, frankly, I mean, again, it's something my son suggested, and it works. So
Mhm.
he did also mention to look you up, and here I am today.
Cool, cool. Well, and I'm looking forward to talking to him, obviously in one of these future calls as well. But so the 50K mark is more than reasonable. It sounds like if I could show you a way, to get you to that point in a way that was going to be still consistent, scalable, and it was going to provide a return on investment. It sounds like there's no reason why you wouldn't want to move forward with that, right?
True, but
Well, not your, we need your son on board too. I get that, but I'm just trying to see from a numbers perspective if I can show you how to do that. And the price was fair and reasonable, and the amount of revenue that you got from the process was fair and reasonable. That it'd be kind of hard to say no to that sort of stuff, if I had to guess.
true. But what if something doesn't work out one month, or let's say I'm spending 2K with you a month,
Mhm.
and we only made 1K, or we're just not performing.
Well,
So
I deserve to get fired at that point. Let's be honest here. So this is just a personal policy of mine. I didn't build my business on trying to take money from clients and not provide value in return. I know that at the end of the day, I solely exist to provide value for my clients, and that's the only reason why I exist. And so everything that I do is to make sure that can happen. Now, if I don't make you money to justify my cost, I don't, in my opinion, deserve to be, getting paid by you anymore, if that was a scenario. And my reputation is very important to me, because at the end of the day, if I don't produce results, the business world is small. you veterinarians, there's not a whole lot of you out there at the end of the day. So if I ruin my reputation with one of you guys, it could really have a very profound effect on the rest of the other veterinarians that I'm also going to be talking to, even potentially in the same town as where you're located as well. And of course, if I don't do well with you, the chance of me getting in with one of those 8 to 9 other, veterinarians in your same vicinity or radius or so might not also be very good too. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, who knows? So again, that's why this conversation right now, by the way, it's just to find out if we're a good fit for each other. I'm not trying to sell you. Put your pocketbook away. If you want to give me money, I'm not going to take it right now. The whole goal is just to make sure that we are a good fit for each other and to move forward in the next step. Or the first date's over and we're done. And no harm, no foul. I want to be respectful to your time just as much as I want to be respectful to mine.
Okay.
And when it comes down to who I choose to do business with in my business, I make sure that I look at everything as if it's it's almost kind of like a partnership, but it's obviously not, The reason why I do it that way, by the way, is because I genuinely care about keeping you for a long time. When I go into trying to bring on a new client, I don't just think about this from the perspective of how much money can I get right now for maybe the next 3 to 4 months. For me, I'm greedy. I want to keep you forever. And as a result, I have to continuously give you more reasons to want to continue to keep doing business with me month after month. And if I'm not doing that, I don't deserve your business. And I also don't deserve to have you stay with me for a long time. And as a side note too, by the way, I'm very picky about who I choose to work with. Like I said in the very beginning, like 70% of the people that I talk to, they never make it past the first call, and there's a reason why. Timing's just not right. It's just not a good fit for both of us. And at any point in this conversation, if you feel like this is not a good fit for you, by all means, cut it off. That's fine. I've got other people I can talk to as well. I'm sure you do too. So I don't want you to feel like you're stuck in this convo, right? But if it makes sense for us to continue this discussion and continue this, moving forward and such, I want to be the guy that can help you get to that 50K a month mark. Because I also know that I've got a system to do it too, and I can help you do that sort of stuff. But it requires a partnership between you and I. Because I'm going to start talking to your staff in your front desk who are going to be making these calls. I know that you like a lot of inbound calls. The fact of the matter is, I don't do billboards. I do direct response advertising, and I actually help people get not only just new leads coming into practice on a regular basis, but also new patients. And that's really what matters to me. I don't care about how many leads I send you. All I care about is how much money I bring your bottom line at the end of the month. And if I can't justify that, whatever. So with that also said, I don't have any contracts either. So, even if it gets to that point, which I'm not sure if it is yet at this point, it sounds like we're kind of jiving pretty well, but you never really know what's going to happen. I'm not going to make you sign a contract. Everything's month to month. So I have to constantly earn your business, So if you're worried about not getting value out of me, or worried about like, oh my God, this guy's going to take my money and run, you know how much time it takes, by the way, to onboard a new client?
Probably a good amount of time. I know that.
A lot of time. It takes a lot of time. I don't like doing it a lot, or when I do it, I don't want to have to do it again over and over again. I spend a lot of time trying to do that sort of stuff. So again, good fit is really what I'm looking for. But at this point, it does sound like we can kind of move forward at least and maybe talk a little bit about what the numbers would look like potentially if we did choose to work with each other. So with that said, I like to do what's called an ROI breakdown, return on investment breakdown, because I also know that I'm an investment to a business. Every dollar that you give, either to me or to the system or to the advertising campaigns that I create for you, et cetera, every single dime that you put into this, you're expecting a multitude of money back. So let's calculate that and see if the numbers make sense that you can move forward. Because if not, we'll just end it here.
Okay.
Let's stop here. How are we good on time? Are you good on time?
It's funny. I have my chiropractor appointment, but it's fine. I'll reschedule it. This is way too good. So
okay. Okay. So let's go back into it. Okay. So let's go through the ROI breakdown. Okay. So because at the end of the day, look, again, it's numbers that make sense, right? If the numbers don't make sense, I don't earn your business. I don't deserve your business. And so if I can't make these numbers work, then, again, we'll just stop it right here and we can get back to what you're doing. But so I want to know a little bit more, I guess, about, the average lifetime value of a new patient for you. Obviously, in the dog and cat world, there is value to having referrals. There's value to, if you get a dog coming in, even as a puppy, vaccinations, general veterinarian stuff, regular dental cleanings, maybe some nail clippings, maybe they'll get some dog food from you guys, maybe they'll get their flea and tick stuff with you. And as that dog or cat gets older in their years, obviously the veterinarian bills start getting more and more expensive. And then not to mention too, when it comes down to them getting an additional dog or cat to replace an unfortunate passing of a furry, loved one and such, there can sometimes be a very high average lifetime value of a new patient for you. So if you had to guess, and if I'm guessing right now, by the way, looking at what I know about veterinarians, the average lifetime value probably is going to range somewhere between $4,000 to $10,000, maybe. I don't know though. I mean, maybe your scenario is different. Your prices are a little bit lower, but I'm guessing you also get more referrals as a result, and there is value to referral. So if you had to estimate where the average lifetime value really is, for your patients, your dog owners, cat owners, whatever, what would you say that is?
I would say realistically, because people try to avoid the vet at all costs. So there is a wide range. Most of my clients probably pay anywhere from around, let's say, this is very realistic, by the way, looking into the numbers, $300 for the year. And you got some people who are all the way up to $2,000 for the year, because they have 3 pets, 4 pets, and they have vaccinations for all these. Sometimes one of them has to get a surgery. So, I mean, it can get up there, but like most of the pets that are healthy, all they need is a vaccination. They come once a year. They might come in for a bath or some boarding here and there. So we're looking at anywhere from like $300 to $500 per year for a client. And then it could get up to $2,000 to $4,000 per year for a client that has just some messed up dogs or cats.
Okay, or rats.
or rats.
Okay, so 300 to 500, and then how many years on average would a client stay with you? If we were going to, like, for example, $500 on average. I mean, so I guess it's hard for me to kind of look at this because I want to be fairly accurate with this, because my entire return on investment breakdown is going to be based off this. Okay, so if it's 300 to 500, is it 500 or is it 2,000? Or if it's 2,000, is it safe to assume it's 500 a year?
Let's say it's safe to assume it's 500 a year. 500
a year, okay. And then on average, how many years would a new owner stay with you on average?
I pretty much keep my clients. I'd say I have about a 95% retention rate. If someone were to leave, it's either maybe just a one-off bad experience, or they've moved across the country, because I still have some clients who come from San Francisco, Beverly Hills, and Irvine, and all these other cities. So yeah, I'd say, not to toot my own horn, but I do pretty well in terms of client retention.
Go ahead and toot your horn. That's good, by the way. A lot of people can't do that. Which is a profound impact, by the way, on the average, on the return on investment for campaigns. So you just throw out a year. I mean, on average, make it conservative too. Like, what would you estimate for a conservative number of years?
Gosh, let's say 5.
5. Okay, 5 years.
That's very conservative, I'd say.
Okay, so what about like, for example, like 6 or 7? Is that possibly also in the realm of conservative too?
Yeah, I'd say so. Half my clients are with me for over 10 years.
Half of them are over 10?
Yeah.
Oh man, dude, you were super conservative in 5 years then. There's probably more like 7 than if I had to guess.
Yeah. But I'd say so.
Okay.
I'd say so.
Let's do 7 then, if that's cool with you. Okay. Sure. So that means your average lifetime value is about $3,500 on average.
Yeah.
Give or take, Would that also include the value of referrals and, it's hard to obviously quantify that sort of stuff, but
I do have a very word of mouth business. Granted, before Yelp, all I do is rely on referrals. It's a very brick and mortar business. And I would get people to also tell their friends or relatives or families who are also in the area to come visit me as well. So you could say that every client that is happy with me and has a friend who has a pet in the area probably has recommended their dogs to me as well. So I'd say, to be also conservative, each client brings in one other person.
One other person. So if I brought you in a dog owner, we're talking more like 7 G's then, because that one person will probably bring in at least another one on average.
All right, let's rephrase that. Let's say for every person, let's say the 0.5 ratio.
0.5. Okay, so now we're talking like that'd be 1,750.
Yeah, so every 2 clients, one would be a referral.
So that's 1,750 on top of 3,500. How about this? To be super conservative, let's just call it 1,000.
Sure.
Does that sound fair to you? I want you to remember this too, by the way, because it's going to make sense why I did that. Okay. Sure. So now we're talking average lifetime value. Then is more like $4,500. Can we agree on that?
Yep.
And that's also super, it sounds like it's super conservative because that's assuming 7 years on average. That's also assuming not 1750, but 1,000. I'm going to illustrate a point with this, okay? Because this is very, very important to learn. So $4,500 is the average lifetime value. Now I'm going to go through a hypothetical return on investment breakdown, okay? So in your area, based on past experience with vet campaigns, I've had cost per lead be $8, $5, sometimes $20. It really depends on the area. Now, the Facebook ad auction really does fluctuate quite a bit from zip code to zip code, from interest to interest, from behavioral interest to an other interest-based keyword. So there's a lot of fluctuation in this. And so it's really hard to determine what the average cost per lead is going to be in any area. So what I like to do on the front end, by the way, is I like to estimate a doomsday scenario for my ROI. Because what I found is that if I can make these numbers work in the worst case scenario, there's probably a pretty good chance that you're going to want to do business with me. That's just being fair here, So I'm going to assume, in most scenarios, I can usually get a cost per lead of somewhere between probably $8 to $15. In your case, I'm going to assume 30. Okay. And so let's assume that in any given month, you get 100 leads. Okay. So if you got 100 leads at $30 a lead, now all of a sudden that costs you $3,000 in advertising. Again, not to say that you're going to do this and not to say it's going to cost this much, but again, I'm looking for the doomsday scenario here, okay? And here's the reason why I do that too, by the way. Sometimes the doomsday scenario, as far as a cost per lead perspective, is actually accurate. So if the numbers make sense at $30 a lead, then we're still going to be okay in that case. But my job is going to be to try to get lower than that, because if I tell you the cost per lead is going to be $8 to $10 and it's actually 30, you're going to think I suck. If I actually assume it's going to be $30, and it actually is more like 15 to 10, I'm gonna be a saint, Yeah. So let's assume you paid $3,000 on average to get 100 leads. Now, out of those 100 leads, usually only 50% of those people are actually gonna show up in your office, okay? So now you just paid $3,000 to basically get 50 people to walk in your front door, okay? And now out of those, if you had 50 people walk in your front door, what is the average percentage of them that will become a full-blown lifetime client of yours?
Probably 50% of that.
50%. Okay. Let's assume 33.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. And again, I'm illustrating the worst case scenario. If you tell me it's going to be 50, I want to see if the numbers make sense at 33. If you say 50%, I want to try to do it at a third and see if it still makes sense, okay? So
how about this? Why don't we change it to 10%?
Well, now you're just lying to me, okay? That's more than just, can you sell more than 10% walking in your front door?
The reason why I changed it is because, yes, I am confident in myself, but from the advertising world, let's say from my Yelp customers, I do get a lot of customers who come in for like a one and done sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So they come in, they loved everything. They write me a good review, mm-hmm. But I haven't seen them again in over 2 years. So mm-hmm. I do have a lot of those, and yes, and then their lifetime value is very different from.
Of course, it is.
Yeah,
the average is there for a reason. So when I look at the average, I include those who have been with you for 15 years that spend $2,000 a year on animal costs. I'm also including those who do spend maybe, 200, maybe 100. Maybe they don't come in for 2 years or whatever. I'm including those in the average lifetime value. So if we need to go back and change the average lifetime value, that's fine. But your close rate shouldn't change that much, because otherwise you're going from I'm a great closer to I'm a terrible closer.
Okay. Then I'd say I'd be more comfortable if you use 25%.
25% is fair. Okay. If you say it's going to be 50%, let's do 25%. That's cool. Sure. So 25% of 50 patients who walk in your front door is 12 and a half new patients.
Okay.
So out of those 12 and a half, your average lifetime value that you told me is 4,500. So let's do 4,500 times 12.5, and now we're left with $56,250 in lifetime revenue off of $3,000 in ad spend. Now, granted, of course, you still have to take out what my retainer fees are going to be, okay? And when it comes down to my new clients and such, the clients I work with, my retainers really range all over the place. I mean, I've got some clients that are at $1,500 a month. I've got some at $3,000 a month. I'm not going to say that you're going to start at $3,000, but if I can still make your ROI breakdown work at $3,000, it's probably going to be a lot more attractive when it's actually a lot less than that, So let's assume you're paying me $3,000. So you paid $3,000 in advertising. You paid $3,000 in ad spend, and in return, you got $56,000 in average lifetime revenue, assuming a 25% close rate, not 50 like you told me. So again, way a half of what you told me. Also, assuming that my cost per lead is going to be probably substantially higher than the reality. I don't think you're actually going to be that high, but it's probably going to be way less than that. Okay. So again, doomsday scenario. And on top of that, rather than giving the full 1750 that you told me, I only took 1,000 for the average for the value of a referral. So again, all these scenarios, I basically cut in half pretty much everything that you told me. And so still, at the end of the day, if I'm charging twice as much as I usually would, if the advertising cost is twice as much as I usually would, and the average lifetime value is roughly half of what it probably actually is, would you be willing to pay $6,000 to get $56,250 in average lifetime revenue?
Now, I see your point, but we're talking about $56,000 in revenue over the course of 7 years as our average, right? It's just not money I'm going to be seeing in this month or the next month or the month after that. And then if I'm paying you $6K a month for the next 3 months, I'm all of a sudden $18K down, but not really down. I'd say we'd get maybe a couple $1,000s back from that.
Mm-hmm.
But that cost is just way too high, even for the doomsday scenario. And even if it was half of that, let's say it was, I'm paying you $3,000 a month, $1,500 in ad spend, $1,500 in your fee, and I'm still making the $50K, $55K in revenue. That's still 7 years. I'm probably not going to see a fifth of that or a seventh of that in the first year, right? So if this is continuing every month, I feel like this is going to be a kind of a burden for me.
Okay, so I will tell you this. Let me ask you this. So the clients that you've had that you got 15 years ago, some of those clients, do you pay now for them actually still being part of your client, or did you already pay for that 15 years ago?
You're right. You just paid it one time.
Right. Advertising is a long-term game at the end of the day. If you're looking for quick hits, advertising is probably not the right thing for you. You've been in business for quite some time, so clearly you're doing something right, or at least you did something right 15 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. For a lot of my clients, to get even someone in their office for the first time, they break even, or sometimes even lose a little bit of money because the money's made in the long game when it comes to advertising. I know you also said that you want to retire pretty soon, and when you retire, the valuation of what your practice is going to be based off of how many patients, how many active patients, how much revenue you're bringing in. So when you look at it from the perspective of, if I can help fill your rosters, even short-term perspective, it's actually going to have a much more profound impact for your clients or for the valuation of your business when you sell it in the long term too, But at the end of the day, the business of, advertising world is a marathon. Let me ask you this. Have you ever gone through your newspaper and looked through and found a McDonald's advertisement for a 99-cent Coca-Cola? Have you seen something like that, or any advertisements for super cheap, like, hey, like free this or free that, for like free food, free,
Yeah.
You know how much it costs to actually put that advertisement in front of you? More than $1.
Yeah.
So how do they make money then, right?
Yeah.
So the way that they make money is by doing several different things. Increasing the average lifetime value of the customer, which means that if you do a good job on the front end, maybe you'll actually get an additional referral. Maybe you could also potentially also sell them on additional services that are going to be valuable for their dogs. The reason why I went with the worst case scenario is because I don't think it's actually going to be the worst case scenario. I think your ROI is probably going to be double this, to be honest with you. But I think you're actually going to make more than just break even on the front end. But can we at least agree that the advertising that you do now isn't necessarily going to have an immediate impact on your bottom line? It will in the long term, just like it did 15 years ago for that client that you got right now. You're not paying for that client right now, but you got them 15 years ago for something you did was pretty smart 15 years ago, So if you're looking at things from the short-term perspective versus the long-term perspective, if that's the case, no advertising is going to work for you. And if you want to get to 50K a month, I'm not really quite sure how you're going to do that at that point, if you can't change that perspective. Now, can you at least maybe meet me in the middle and say that maybe, just maybe, I'm onto something here, and you've already known this, but at the end of the day also, you've already been doing this anyways, right? So how is this any different? And again, I'm not saying you're going to pay $3,000, but if the numbers make sense, it's cut all that stuff in half cost-wise, and then probably double the actual ROI in the long term. I can't tell you how much money you're going to make in the short term. That's on you.
So is there, okay, makes sense. But is there any way we can maybe start a little slower if we were to start? Maybe like $1,000 a month your fee, $1,000 a month for ad spend?
I would recommend $1,000 a month in ad spend, but I'm not cheap at the end of the day. You know, like I got to make sure that I spend my time with the right kind of clients just as much as you do with the right kind of clients for you as well. And so look, here's the deal. If you're not happy, I'm willing to refund part of your money if necessary, because I want to make sure, like, again, the long-term perspective of the relationship's important. Now, there's a couple of things that I still don't even know necessarily if I still want to do business with you just yet. You know, I still don't know more about, you know, your front office. I can tell you right now that when I give leads to a client, if they don't follow up the leads diligently, it creates a much larger problem for me. And then it also makes sure the ROI goes complete crap. So there's a lot of time that I spend with you on the front end. I will train your staff on the front end. Sorry. I will give you a script and make sure that your staff is trained on it. I haven't even shown you the whole process, right? There's a bunch of other stuff that I do to make your life easier, like Google Sheet tracking, like making sure that I can even send you a text message when a new lead comes in so you can follow up with them immediately. And you and I will also work with each other. Yeah, I know, right? So this cool stuff I haven't shown you yet. We haven't gotten to the demo. And I don't like to talk about that sort of stuff because I'm not a lead page generator. I am not a creative person that creates just ads for you. I am a consultant, and I'm also going to be the guy that's going to help you bring new patients and new dogs and new cats and new referrals in your front door to help you get to that 50K a month and probably more than that in a very short time frame. That's what I do. I don't sell leads. I sell growth. And so, you know, at the end of the day, like, yeah, let's start a little bit slower. Like I said, these numbers are lower than that, but the lowest I'm going to go is it's going to be $1,500. Again, it's an investment in your growth, and it's an investment into where you want to go by the end of the year. And it sounds like you don't have a lot of other options, but I'm not saying that in the sense where I'm trying to lock you down and say, I know I got you. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that if you're not happy, I'm willing to refund your money, because I'd much more be willing to do that if it means that we have to pause maybe for a month or two. Now, granted, with that said, I've never had to refund any money before. I'm very good at what I do, and I'm also very careful about taking on the right kinds of clients. And so it might take 2 to 3 months, by the way, to really hit our stride. I want to make sure that you know that going into it. If you're looking for a quick hit in the first month, that's probably not going to happen, you know. But if you're looking to invest in your business, and I can tell you that we can get there. You've already seen my testimonials. I can show you ad accounts, you know, of other accounts I'm working with right now as well. But it's an investment at the end of the day.
So what you mentioned, you pause campaign, or you mean pause your service, say things aren't going well. So what do you do during that time?
Well, at the end of the day, like, hey, if we can cross that bridge when we get there, because it depends on the scenario. You know, in some scenarios, I've actually changed my relationship with the client to the point where I spend more time working with them on sales consulting. You know, as a result, I'm not just an advertiser per se, because I don't just create advertising campaigns. So if you've got other problems in your business with sales process consulting or whatever, I'm going to expose those with advertising campaigns, and I'll work with you on that on the back end. But that's something that I do specifically. A lot of other advertisers don't do that sort of stuff as well. It's just something that I offer because that's my skill set. You know, I've spent 14 years in professional B2B sales, but you know, I don't really sell anyone. I just try to find opportunities and see if I can help people out. And at the end of the day, I know my worth. You know, so you know, would you be willing to at least, you know, if you weren't happy, again, if you want to quit after the first month, we should probably just stop this right now. You know, it's probably not going to be the best fit right now. But if you can at least see that after this conversation that I know what I'm talking about, and we haven't gotten to a demo yet, I will go into that pretty soon. But if you've got the comfort of knowing that at any point in the process, you don't have a contract keeping you here, and I would much prefer to actually just give you money back than have you a chargeback on my credit processor, because that hurts me way more. You know, if we can just be totally honest with each other and like totally communicate with each other, I think we can make this work. What about you?
Well, was it Casey?
Yeah.
You're a convincing man.
I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not even trying to sell you. I don't want your money right now, by the way. So
I understand. Okay.
Before we do anything, by the way, I want to talk to your son, because it's important to me to know that your son and I are also on the same page as well. Because if we're not in lockstep with each other, it creates, you know, bottlenecks in communication. It creates issues on the back end. I'm not going to keep you as long as well. So it's really important for me to make sure that we're all on the same team. Okay. So before we even get to the demo, Sil, put your pocketbook away. I want to talk to your son first. If it makes sense at that point, I'll actually customize the demo for you, and I can show you some ad accounts, and you know, I'm sure your son will really be able to digest the information, you know, as well. And I can kind of walk you through exactly what we're looking at here. But in the meantime, let's set the next step to talk to your son, to also show you some other stuff. I'll create an actual demo for you, and then, you know, when you're ready to rock and roll, let's launch it. I'll send you an invoice, and then you get off to the races from there. Okay.
Okay. You know what? Sounds good.
I appreciate your time, by the way. I'm looking forward to, you know, seeing where this turns out and such. But is there any questions that you have for me before we go?
No, I think I'm okay.
And then how do I get a hold of you to schedule the next appointment with your son? How should I do that?
I can give you his number so
Okay.
that you can give him a call, and then we can do a three-way.
Okay. All right, cool. Sounds good. Well, I will do that. I appreciate your time in the meantime, and I look forward to seeing what happens from here.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Casey.
Okay. So what do you think?
Oh my gosh. That's nuts. I love it. Yeah, it's I that little book that Billie Jean passed out just a couple of days ago at the conference, To Sell Like a Genius. I literally just saw that in action.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have it down to a T. I love it. Thank you so much for that.
I actually haven't read his book yet either.
I'm sure, I mean, I think it's the same thing as the Sell Like a Genius gene pool.
Yeah,
but all condensed.
The consultative sales approach is very much so like that. You're not pitching, like, and Billy leads with the demo. I don't. So we have different processes, For me, it's very important that fits there because, like, I'm not, no bullshit. I'm not trying to sell someone on the first call. I'm really not, You
take a careful approach, more careful, more like you really don't want to fuck with clients that are not fit for you. So you really make that apparent in the beginning. Yes, you might go through some more calls, first number 1 calls, but at the end, you're having better number 2 calls and better demos.
They buy on the second call every single fucking time. They do. If they get to that point, they buy. So from my perspective, I'd rather do less demos and more just talking to people because people buy. It's people are the reasons why people buy. Like their needs, their wants, their desires are what's the most important, and they're going to be the ones that tell you that. But you have to ask questions, and you have to really truly try to get into the mind of what they're trying to do. I referenced multiple times because I learned at the very beginning of the conversation, you try to get to 50K, 50K a month. And I reference that multiple times because the questions that I ask lead me towards understanding what your real goals are. And I tailor my conversation for you. I don't tailor my conversation for what I think is going to make you buy. I tailor my conversation for what I know is going to make you buy. And that's why I ask questions in the beginning. Because if I don't do that sort of stuff, I don't pitch anything. I don't fucking pitch a single goddamn thing. I only sell what I know is what you care about. And I tailor my conversation to that. So when it comes to things like you want to make 50K a month, I'm going to show you how to do that. When it comes to things like you want to sell your practice soon, well, let me show you how I can increase the value of that when you sell it,
I love
all that sort of stuff,
Good.
So, but it also because I'm not pushy and because I'm not salesy in the first call, I build a lot of fucking trust with people as a result. And that's something that, is very important. If you don't have trust in that conversation with the client, you don't have anything. So.
Got it. That's great, man. Is it important to do a video call, or can I just hop on the phone?
I have not done a single first sales call over video. It's been all over the phone.
Okay, cool.
I do everything over the phone pretty much in the very beginning. In fact, even on the screen shares, I don't do anything over video. I'll do video sometimes with clients. I've never really had to though.
Oh, it's just like when you're on like the phone and then you just do screen shares together.
I do screen shares over join.me usually, So I do Zoom if I'm doing like meetings with people or testimonial videos. When it comes to like the actual sales call, it's all over the phone or join.me, which has no screen, which has no camera on me.
Gotcha. Okay.
But anyways, was this valuable for you?
Very valuable. It helps me being in the scenario on the other side. Granted, it's still very, very helpful. It helps me build confidence in pushing towards it. I just think I need to get to that initial phone call, and I know how to talk to people. I don't know if you've heard. I took a DISC test. Do you know what a DISC test?
Oh yeah, I took DISC.
Yeah, I literally just took it yesterday as well, and I'm a high I, so. I'm a people pleaser.
I took my DISC test like in 2008, 2009, so I can't remember what I was.
There's D dominant. Shit. Wow, I don't even know what they stand for. But high I means like you're very receptive and you're a people pleaser and you know how to be agreeable and talk to people. Granted, I haven't never done sales, but I have the qualities of a salesperson.
The whole idea of a salesperson is a misconstrued concept in a lot of scenarios, because there's a big difference between selling B2B and B2C. And there's also a big difference between selling wants versus needs. I've always been a no bullshit salesperson at all times. Like I am always like, look, man, like I'm not trying to sell you here at the end of the day. Like, to me, that relationship, when you get too pushy and too salesy, you lose trust in the process. And without trust, you can't sell. I mean, really, and like I'm not full of shit either. That's the biggest thing for me. It's like it's very important for me to be 1000% unapologetically authentic at all times. And that also means like, even when it was in my best interest to sell something, I'd say, don't fucking buy this. This is not a good fit for you. I'm to me, it's important to sell with integrity, to sell with purpose, to sell with them in mind, not yourself. Like that to me is the most important thing in this process. And so when I sell, I don't fucking pitch. I don't push. I don't do any of that shit. I don't need to. Because I can just talk to you and already know whether or not you're a good fit. And if you're not a good fit, I shut the fucking call off. It's just not going to work, right? I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time either, So for me, it's like, I sell when necessary. I'm very careful about the tone that I have when I sell. I'm very careful about making sure that the conversation is a conversation, not a pitch fest. And at the end of the day, if you want to buy, you want to buy. If you don't, hey, I didn't do my job right. I clearly didn't get to know more enough about you in the very beginning, because the information that you gather in the very beginning is really what you use for the rest of the conversation, Yeah. So I'm going to post this probably in the School of Genius group. I'm going to post this in also obviously in this group as well. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I guess, where would you rank this as helpful for you being able to start making some sales?
I'd say 10, definitely. The only thing I just need to do is get those emails, start pushing, get that initial phone call, and I should be good after that.
Good. If you need help, watch this video again. Because there's a lot of subtleties that I actually include in that. Like when you threw objections at me, I was able to pretty much overcome them pretty quickly.
Very quickly as well, I noticed.
It takes time to learn how to do that, by the way. And here's the reason why. It's because I don't pull bullshit. That's part of how I handle objections, is I'm just brutally frank and honest about how I feel about it. And then if I need to try to push that off, I push it off. If they don't want to push it off, conversation's over. Because the moment someone talks about cost rather than me having the opportunity to talk about how I can actually turn it into an investment kind of scenario, if the moment that happens, either I can keep them or I can lose them very quickly, and I would rather lose them quickly rather than try to just let me push you down the process and see where you end up at the fucking end. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah. Okay.
So, anyways, hey, for those of you who are watching this video in the School of Genius group, if you're looking for sales skills, please don't fucking come to me for the shit. You're gonna have to be invite only into my my little bro group, or read through or watch through the Sell Like a Genius stuff with Billy, because that stuff's, I imagine, very, very good. I haven't seen it personally, but anyways, I'm glad this was helpful. Go forth and go kick some fucking ass. I believe in you, and I look forward to hearing from how things turn out for you pretty soon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, I'm gonna stop this here.